on 2 tonight, we are hearing from the family of a woman whose body was found in a barrel in the woods. We want to thank you for joining us. I'm Keith Garvin. Loved ones identified the woman as 41-year-old Christelrose Angel Ramirez. Court records show her boyfriend, Jesus Varela, is suspected of killing her.
Only if I was beautiful 24/7. Being cabrones, man. But look, today I was given this. Isn't that beautiful? It's meaning that I'm on the right track. Love you guys.
On December 4th, 2025, Harris County Sheriff's Office received information directing them to a wooded area off Rush Creek Drive near Ella Boulevard and Northwest Houston. The location was in the Greens Point area, a section of Northwest Houston that has experienced various levels of development and urban change over the decades. The specific site was secluded, characterized by dense trees, underbrush, and uneven terrain. It was known to local law enforcement as a location where illegal dumping occurred with some frequency. The area was not residential. There were no houses with direct views of the dumping site. The nearest roadway provided vehicle access but was not heavily traveled. These factors made it a location where items could be abandoned with reduced likelihood of immediate discovery. Deputies arrived at the scene and established a perimeter. They conducted a methodical search of the area, looking through discarded construction materials, old furniture, bags of household waste, and various forms of debris that had accumulated over time. Among the illegally dumped materials, they located a large plastic barrel. The container was cylindrical, approximately 55 gallons in capacity. It was identified as a chemical storage barrel, the type designed for industrial use in manufacturing or chemical processing facilities. These barrels are constructed from high-density polyethylene, making them durable and resistant to corrosion. The barrel had a removable lid secured with a locking ring mechanism. Deputies approached the barrel with caution, documenting its position and appearance before attempting to open it. The lid was pried open. Inside were 4 large black trash bags. The bags were the heavy-duty type, thicker than standard household garbage bags. They were tied at the top. The bags were removed from the barrel and carefully opened. Inside those bags was a human body, positioned face down. The body was fully contained within the layers of plastic. The remains were those of a woman. The state of decomposition was consistent with several days of exposure to ambient temperature and environmental conditions. The discovery immediately initiated a homicide investigation. Forensic personnel from the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences were called to the scene. Crime scene investigators arrived with equipment for documentation, evidence collection, and remains recovery. The body was photographed in situ before being moved. Each layer of wrapping was documented. The position of the body within the bags was recorded. The barrel itself was processed for fingerprints, trace evidence, and any other physical evidence that might connect it to a suspect or location. The surrounding area was searched for additional evidence. Investigators looked for tire tracks, footprints, discarded items that might have been brought to the scene at the same time as the barrel, and any other materials that could provide investigative leads. The body was removed from the scene and transported to the medical examiner's office for autopsy and formal identification. The barrel and trash bags were collected as evidence and transported to the crime lab for further analysis. The location was secured with crime scene tape. A detailed grid search of the area was conducted to ensure no evidence was overlooked. Measurements were taken, GPS coordinates were recorded, and a sketch of the scene was prepared. This was not a random discovery. Law enforcement had been directed to the specific location based on information provided by a witness. Without that information, the barrel might have remained in the woods for weeks or months, blending in with other illegally dumped materials. The body had been there for 3 days. The victim was identified through fingerprint comparison and dental records as Christelrose Angel Ramirez. She was 41 years old at the time of her death. Christel lived in the Independence Heights area of Houston, a historically significant neighborhood with deep cultural roots. Independence Heights was incorporated in 1915, making it one of the first incorporated Black communities in Texas and one of the first in the United States. The neighborhood was established during a period when racial segregation prevented Black families from purchasing property in other parts of Houston. Over generations, Independence Heights developed its own identity, with churches, businesses, and civic organizations forming the foundation of community life. By the time Christel lived there, Independence Heights had undergone various economic and demographic changes. The area maintained its working-class character. Families lived in single-family homes, duplexes, and small apartment buildings. The neighborhood had areas of stability alongside sections dealing with crime and economic hardship. Christel was described by family members as someone who helped others. This characterization came from multiple relatives and friends interviewed by media following her death. Her father, Ricardo Ramirez, stated that she would assist strangers, friends, and family members without hesitation. She was her only daughter, and he described their relationship as close. Ricardo lived outside of Houston. The distance meant that he and Christel maintained contact primarily through phone calls and messages. Ricardo had been aware of problems in Christel's living situation and had been making plans to bring her home. The specific timeline of these plans was not detailed in public statements, but Ricardo indicated he had been actively working on relocating his daughter at the time of her death. Christel maintained employment, though her specific occupation has not been publicly identified in court records or media reports. Employment meant she had financial resources, daily routines, and connections to coworkers. She was not transient or without structure in her daily life. Her established routines became significant in the investigation. Christel had consistent patterns of communication with family members. She responded to calls and messages. She maintained contact. These patterns meant that when communication stopped, it was immediately noticeable to those who knew her. Family members described her as dependable. She showed up when expected, she followed through on commitments, she maintained relationships over time. This consistency meant that her sudden absence could not be easily explained by voluntary travel, spontaneous plans, or a decision to temporarily cut off contact. The description provided by those who knew her indicated a person who was present in the lives of others. She participated in family events, she answered her phone, she engaged with the world around her. She was not isolated by geography, circumstance, or choice. These facts established a baseline for investigators. When someone with Christel's patterns suddenly disappears, when they stop responding to all forms of contact, when they fail to show up for expected activities, it indicates something involuntary has occurred. People with established routines and strong family connections do not simply vanish. Christel was in an on-and-off romantic relationship with Jesus Varela. Jesus Varela was a Honduran national residing in Houston. The exact duration of their relationship is not fully documented in available records. The two lived together at a residence in the Independence Heights area of Houston. Court records and police reports indicate the relationship had documented problems. There were incidents that came to the attention of law enforcement prior to Christel's death. In November 2025, approximately 1 month before the homicide, police were called to the residence Christel shared with Varela. The call was related to a domestic violence dispute. Officers responded and assessed the situation. Christel was arrested during this incident, not Varela. She was taken into custody and faced charges related to the domestic dispute. The specific circumstances that led to her arrest rather than his are not detailed in available court documents. This arrest is significant because it represents documented contact with law enforcement at the residence where Christel would later be killed. It also demonstrates that the relationship had escalated to a point where police intervention was necessary. Following the November arrest, Christel and Varela remained in the same residence. There is no indication that either party sought protective orders or that authorities mandated separation. The relationship continued despite the documented violence. According to statements Varela later gave to investigators, he and Christel had an argument around Thanksgiving. This places another confirmed conflict within the final week of November, less than 1 week before her death. The November domestic violence incident represents the first documented warning sign available in public records. However, the nature of the dispute and Christel's arrest suggest the conflict had been building prior to police involvement. The argument around Thanksgiving indicates continued tension in the relationship. The proximity of this argument to Christel's death, approximately 1 week, establishes a pattern of ongoing conflict. There is no public record indicating Christel sought help from domestic violence services, filed a restraining order, or made plans to leave the residence. Her father stated he was working on bringing her home, suggesting family members were aware the situation required intervention. The lack of formal reports does not indicate absence of abuse. Many victims do not report incidents due to fear, financial dependence, immigration concerns of a partner, or belief that the situation will improve. In this case, Christel's arrest in November may have created additional barriers to seeking help. Being arrested at a domestic violence scene can discourage victims from calling police in the future, as they fear being arrested again rather than protected. On December 1, 2025, Christelrose Angel Ramirez was shot and killed inside the residence she shared with Jesus Varela in Independence Heights, Houston. According to evidence later presented by prosecutors in court,
Joy.
That's what she was, because she had so much energy in her.
I miss her so much.
She was great. Her middle name described her, Angel.
Angel.
If you were sad, she made you happy. You need something to give to you.
She was like a tia to all of our kids. She was like a sister to all of the cousins. She was like a daughter to all of the tias. We all loved her. She had so much love, and she gave us so much love. All that love,
Yes,
irreplaceable.
I know. We're gonna miss her so much. I'm gonna miss her so much. That was my only daughter, and I'm gonna miss her. She was a bundle of joy.
She was his care provider. She was his everything.
Yes, but she went on her way to figure out her life, and I went on my way to figure out my life. But I was gonna go get her this Friday to yesterday, but it never happened. All this tragedy happened, so I'm kind of like upset to wait too long, but it's not my fault. If God wanted her gone, He took her. Like they say, only the good die young.
What has been the hardest part for you guys, having to live with this new reality?
It's
The way she died.
The way he took her.
Killed her
He
and
didn't
dumped her
have
off, but
to kill
I
her.
we don't have justice for Christelrose right now because he hasn't been charged for murder. And if he gets out, ICE is going to take him and deport him. And I want justice. I want an eye for an eye. Texas is the death penalty, and that's what I want for her. I want justice for Christelrose.
Justice for my cousin, yes, because his bond was set at, I don't even keep up,
240,000.
How do you even have a bond? That's the thing that angers me. Is like,
But he was not charged with murder yet. He was just charged for domestic dispute,
tampering with the corpse,
and violence on a family member.
I could maybe deal with him probably shooting her.
Yes, and leave her
But the
alone.
fact that I can't even wrap my head around it. Because when we saw the report, it said something about 4 trash bags, and then they dumped her in a barrel.
I don't know if they cut her up or
We're
what.
clueless. We just want
Ask
answers.
the detectives what happened, and they tell me we can't involve anything to you because the autopsy is still on process. And now they're going to let her go today. They're supposed to release her to the funeral home, and I haven't called the detective back to find out what happened, how it happened, But I just want 1 minute with that man, 1 minute, to tell him how much I feel.
As your only daughter,
Yes.
what would you say is your reaction to learning those small details that HPD has given you?
Frustrating because if you can't grasp of what happened because they don't want to tell you nothing. I have to hear it from other people, like the grapevine, and it all gets mixed up, from one person to another person, and it gets bigger and bigger, But I just want the truth to come out. I want him to get, what he deserves, the electric chair, but we don't have an electric chair no more. But I want justice for Christelrose.
Justice for my cousin. She didn't deserve
Nobody
that.
deserves to be.
She was
felt her,
such she
Nobody deserves
She
to
called
die
the
like that.
cops on him
I know, yes.
in the past.
The cops-
And the cops came. She called for domestic violence. The cops came and took
Her.
her to jail instead of him.
And then he had a ice holding on him. They should have already took him right there and then,
right.
And when they didn't find his body, the family and friends and neighbors
We're about to
were
go
about
look
to do a search.
by
And that
ourselves.
same day.
That
they
same
told us
day.
They found
the
her
body.
dead, yeah.
That same day
I
that they
put it on
found
my
her
sock
body.
and then I get the phone and it's, I just broke down and I didn't know what to feel. I was numbed.
They sent you a text message.
Yeah, I read it in the text message. Yes, they have a group chat, and I went into it, and they said that they found Crystal. Oh no, somebody texted me that they found. I think my cousin over there. She texted me, and then I just I broke down. I didn't know what to do. I was just
Right. That's part of the frustration. How he's the father, he's the dad. He hasn't been notified about anything when they found the body, when they were going to transport the body, when they arrested her. He, as a father, he needed that peace. Some people, I mean, I know it'd probably be hard, but that was his mindset. He wanted in his heart to identify the body, and he didn't have a chance. And we still haven't had any answers. We don't know what's going on. We don't know. We just read a report. We want to know. What are they talking about? 4 trash bags. We want to know what barrel.
We can have an open view on her casket, or it's going to be closed.
Still don't know.
She was decomposing or not, stuff like that. Because she was missing for 11 days.
11 days.
Well, we don't understand
and the
why
first
homicide hasn't contact her father.
or interview.
They did. They called me. I called them because my nephew right there, he gave me the number and everything. He gave me the information, and I called him.
You couldn't leave that
And,
part out.
because everybody gets on the Google and figures out what happens, hey, and then it was Christelrose, and I said, no, you lie. Oh, my sister's the one that called me. I said, no, you lying, you playing a trick on me, denial. Yeah. And then I was so mad. I said, if it's just a lie, I'm going to whip your, But after that, she started crying, and I said, wow. Then I got more information. Then I called the detectives, and they said, yes, we found your daughter. Oh, man, my heart just dropped in my stomach, and I died.
Can you tell me about the moment when you learned that the case and your missing daughter were connected?
What do you mean by that?
Because they knew that was her boyfriend. They knew that the man that was caught on a traffic violation was the boyfriend. And then we didn't hear from Christelrose since November 30th. The way we would reach out to Christelrose is by looking at her Facebook. She would post
She would
every
text
day.
me all the time, text me on my birthday on November 20th. And that was the last time I got a text.
November 30th was the last post, Christelrose Angel.
But everybody said that they talked to her or texted her by the 30th, and after the 30th, nothing. And then somebody called me and said, have you heard from Crystal? And I said, no. And I texted her, hey, Mom, they're looking for you. And
No
reply back. So that worried me so much. Like, I was saying, let me call the police. Let me see, what's going on, if she's, something happened to her. Because she always would tell me, someone's going to kill me, Dad, and put me in a barrel. She would tell me that all the time.
She didn't deserve to die.
Oh, God. She didn't deserve to die like that. I just hope there's justice in this world. If not, I don't know how I'm going to live.
We came to the media for justice.
We're American Indians. Hispanic, and we love this country because this country is so great. And I love Texas because they got the death penalty for people like that. And domestic violence needs to be, said more often, and the women in the situation should be taken out of that situation. Because every domestic violence in this world ends in death.
Varela's cell phone records showed that on December 1st, his phone had pinged off cell towers in the area off Rush Creek Drive near Ella Boulevard. This was the same area where the nephew claimed Varela had forced him to help dispose of Christel's body. The timing of the phone activity in that area corresponded with the timeline provided by the nephew. The phone data placed Varela at the disposal site on the day of the killing, corroborating the witness testimony. With this evidence, investigators had sufficient probable cause to believe Christel's body was at the location indicated by the nephew. On December 4th, 2025, 3 days after the killing, Harris County Sheriff's Office sent deputies and forensic personnel to the wooded area off Rush Creek Drive. They searched the location systematically. Among the illegally dumped materials, they found the barrel. The barrel was opened, revealing the 4 black trash bags. Inside the bags was Christelrose Angel Ramirez. The body was removed and transported to the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences for autopsy. The medical examiner conducted a full examination. The cause of death was determined to be gunshot wound. The manner of death was ruled homicide. The evidence collected at this point included the barrel, the trash bags, the body, blood samples from the residence, photographs of the blood patterns at the residence, phone record location data, witness testimony from the nephew, and statements from Varela that contradicted physical evidence. Jesus Varela was arrested over the weekend following the discovery of Christel's body. He was taken into custody and transported to Harris County Jail. During initial questioning, Varela maintained his story that Christel had left the residence after an argument and he did not know where she had gone. He denied involvement in her death. However, the physical evidence, phone records, and witness testimony contradicted his statements. Investigators had sufficient evidence to charge him. Varela was initially charged with 3 offenses. The first charge was tampering with evidence of a human corpse. This charge relates to the disposal of Christel's body in the barrel and the attempt to conceal the crime. The second charge was assault on a family member. This charge was related to Varela's actions toward his nephew. By forcing his nephew to help dispose of the body through threats and physical intimidation, Varela committed assault. The third charge was unlawful restraint. This charge also pertained to the nephew. Varela had restrained his nephew's freedom by threatening him and forcing him to participate in criminal activity against his will. The combined bond for these initial 3 charges was set at over $240,000. However, prosecutors were not finished. Tampering with a corpse is a serious charge, but it is not equivalent to murder. The evidence supported a murder charge. On December 5th, 2025, 1 day after Christel's body was discovered, Jesus Varela was officially charged with murder. The murder charge carried a significantly higher bond. Varela's bail was increased to $750,000 for the murder charge. When combined with the previous charges, the total bond amount exceeded $990,000. Jesus Varela appeared in court following his arrest. He was presented in an orange jail-issued jumpsuit with his hands shackled. He spoke briefly through a translator as his primary language is Spanish. Prosecutors presented evidence to the court. They detailed the blood evidence found at the residence. They presented the phone records showing Varela's location at the disposal site on December 1st. They described the witness testimony from the nephew regarding being forced to help dispose of the body under threat of death. They also presented the physical evidence of the barrel, the trash bags, and the body. The evidence established that Christel had been killed in the residence, that Varela had concealed her body, and that he had forced another person to assist him. The defense did not present evidence at this preliminary stage. Varela entered a plea of not guilty. The judge reviewed the evidence and the severity of the charges. Based on the evidence presented and the flight risk assessment, the judge denied bail. Varela was ordered to remain in custody pending trial. In addition to the criminal charges, Varela had an immigration complication. He's a Honduran national, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement placed a detainer on him. This means that even if he were to post bond or be released from local custody, ICE would take him into federal custody for immigration proceedings. The ICE hold ensures that Varela cannot leave the country while facing murder charges. It also complicates any future release scenarios, as he would face deportation proceedings after serving any criminal sentence. Varela remains in Harris County Jail awaiting trial. Court dates have been scheduled for preliminary hearings and motions. The case will proceed through the standard criminal justice process, which includes discovery, potential plea negotiations, and trial preparation. Christel's father, Ricardo Ramirez, spoke to media following the charges being filed against Varela. He described his daughter as beautiful with her entire life ahead of her. He stated that he had been planning to bring her home to remove her from the situation with Varela. Ricardo expressed his desire for maximum punishment for Varela. He specifically stated that he wanted the death penalty. He said he would be present in court for every proceeding to ensure that justice was served for his daughter. He described the emotional toll of losing his only daughter. He stated that he was already dead inside and that burying her would make him die more. He described the pain as unbearable and ongoing. The family established a GoFundMe account to help with funeral expenses. In addition to processing grief and trauma, the family faced the financial burden of burial costs. Ricardo stated that nobody should have to bury their child. He described the upcoming funeral as the hardest thing he would ever have to do. Family members used Christel's case to speak about domestic violence. They stated that love should never hurt and that if someone hurts you, it is not good love. They expressed hope that Christel's story would serve as a warning to others in violent relationships. As of December 2025, Jesus Varela remains in custody at Harris County Jail. He is charged with murder, tampering with evidence, assault on a family member, and unlawful restraint. The case is in the pre-trial phase. Discovery is ongoing, meaning both prosecution and defense are exchanging evidence and preparing their cases. The prosecution has substantial physical evidence, including blood evidence from the residence, phone location data, witness testimony from the nephew, and the physical evidence of the barrel and body. The evidence established that Christel had been killed in the residence, that Varela had concealed her body, and that he had forced another person to assist him. The defense has not publicly outlined its strategy. Standard defenses in such cases might include challenging the evidence, questioning witness credibility, or arguing for lesser charges. However, the physical evidence in this case is extensive and corroborated by multiple sources. Texas allows for the death penalty in capital murder cases. The prosecution has not yet announced whether they will seek the death penalty, though the victim's father has publicly stated his desire for that outcome. If the case goes to trial, a jury will hear evidence from both sides. The prosecution will present the timeline of events, the evidence from the residence, the phone records, and testimony from witnesses including the nephew and law enforcement personnel. The defense will have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses, present alternative explanations, and argue for reasonable doubt. If convicted of murder, Varela faces a sentence ranging from 5 years to life in prison, or potentially death if the prosecution pursues capital murder charges and the jury agrees. The nephew, who was forced to help dispose of Christel's body, is considered a victim in this case. He was charged with no crimes related to the disposal, as his participation was under duress and threat of death. His testimony will be crucial to the prosecution's case. Christelrose Angel Ramirez was 41 years old when she was killed on December 1, 2025. She was shot while sleeping in her own bed in a residence she shared with her boyfriend, Jesus Varela. After killing her, Varela forced his nephew to help place her body in trash bags, put those bags in a barrel, and dispose of the barrel in a wooded area. The body was discovered 3 days later after a witness contacted police. Varela was arrested and charged with murder, tampering with evidence, assault, and unlawful restraint. He remains in custody awaiting trial. The evidence against him includes blood evidence from the residence, cell phone location data, witness testimony from the nephew, and the physical evidence of the barrel and body. Christel's family is seeking maximum punishment for Varela. They have established a fund for funeral costs and have spoken publicly about domestic violence in hopes that their daughter's death might serve as a warning to others. The case is proceeding through the criminal justice system. A trial date has not yet been set. The legal process will continue as both sides prepare their cases. This is the documented information available about the death of Christelrose Angel Ramirez and the investigation into Jesus Varela.